During Microsoft's Xbox Developer Direct 2025 stream, we got two bombshell announcements right at the start. Not only had Team Ninja been working on Ninja Gaiden 4 with the help of Platinum Games for the past few years, but following the presentation, an updated port of Ninja Gaiden 2 would be available on Game Pass for console and PC. Titled Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, the intent was clear. This was an apology for the Sigma series and a declaration that this latest port is the definitive way to play the game. It was exciting as all hell, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it, especially since I've often lamented the existence of the Sigma versions of the Ninja Gaiden games. While it took a few hours for the Xbox app to actually update and show the game, I downloaded it while having dinner and booted it up shortly after. While I was happy with the visuals and their faithfulness to the Xbox 360 original's art style, even down to using the same cutscene animations, it was upon getting control of protagonist Ryu Hayabusa that I noticed something was off. This version of the game was remarkably easier than the one I had played 17 years ago. Maybe my skills increased over the years or my muscle memory kicked back in immediately, but I couldn't help but think that Ninja Gaiden 2 Black might actually be a stealth re-release of Sigma 2. As I progressed through the first level, cutting down hordes of rival ninjas like they were made of incredibly bloody paper, I initially chalked up the difference in difficulty to a rebalancing on Team Ninja's part. Even Ninja Gaiden Black back on the original Xbox tweaked the difficulty curve to present easier levels first before ramping up in the second half. Maybe Ninja Gaiden 2 Black was hiding the tougher stuff until later in the campaign. I proceeded to beat the entire first level without dying, and felt pretty good. Then I did the same for the second level, and my initial doubt seemed more likely. I shut off the game for the night and proceeded to take care of some other chores I had. The next day, I did research into what the general fan reception for 2 Black was, and my fears were realized. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black actually is a re-release of Sigma 2, though it's not a straight port. For the most part, the lower enemy count, higher enemy health, and far easier boss fights are all present and accounted for. There are a few segments where you encounter more enemies than the PS3 version of Sigma 2, but otherwise this is the same game, just with the gore restored. The collectible crystal skulls are even in the same locations as Sigma 2. Talk about a gut punch. With no real clarification from the stream and the sudden shadow drop of the game onto Game Pass, there wasn't much information available to really prepare me before playing. Once I was deep into Ninja goodness, however, I noticed the cracks and I started to feel a little cheated. For a port that is calling back to what is possibly the greatest action game ever made, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black almost feels like a bait and switch. Is Team Ninja telling us that the upcoming Ninja Gaiden 4 is going to be more toned down to appeal to general audiences, or is this re-release just a fluke? Let me stress that I don't think 2 Black is necessarily bad. There are some solid changes here over the Xbox 360 original, and even Sigma 2. The auto-targeting bow is great since trying to pick out targets in the midst of combat was always annoying as hell. I don't care for the additional chapters with new characters, but the tag missions are fun for a bit, though the loss of online co-op from the PS3 version is bizarre. The removal of the Tests of Valor challenges kind of sucks, but then a full game challenge mode sort of replaces that. The absolutely awful statue bosses from Sigma 2 have also been replaced with the original game's boss fights, so there are definite improvements here. It's just that ultimately, the balance of Sigma 2 remains intact, and as such, the game doesn't quite feel like Ninja Gaiden. Difficulty is not the only thing that made the 2004 Xbox reboot interesting, but challenge is one of the key components of Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden 2 upped that further by utilizing the power of the Xbox 360 to deliver an intense horde of foes all at once. It sometimes came at the cost of performance, but cutting down hundreds of enemies per level while managing your health was a challenge unlike any other. Where Sigma 2 really stumbled is that not only did Team Ninja remove a pretty large number of foes, it upped their basic health to compensate. That makes sense on paper, but in practice, you have battles with low-level ninjas feeling like they last way too long. You also have entire segments of levels where there aren't any enemies, leading to completely pointless padding in the map design. The bosses then had their health cut down significantly, meaning button mashing could see you win if you time your dodges right. It's not ideal for certain. Now, I can understand why Sigma 2 formed the basis for this new port. As stated a few years ago, when the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection was released, Team Ninja lost the source code for Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2. Any future ports will need to be based on Sigma unless they get a full remake. Since Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is entirely rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5, I thought that was what Team Ninja had done. Instead of giving fans the lesser version of its action masterpiece, this was going to be the game that corrected the path forward for the series. Instead, we have a strange amalgamation between the original 2 and Sigma 2 that winds up being disappointing. The shift to a new engine also introduces some strange bugs. such as shader compilation stutter, fuzzy upscaling artifacts, wonky hit detection, sometimes laggy controls, HDR being washed out, ray tracing that completely obliterates performance, though this is thankfully optional, delayed texture pop-in happening during cutscenes, and the occasional graphical oddity. Just look at Ryu's sash wigging out here. I don't want this to come off as an entitled rant, but I also can't emphasize enough how slighted I feel by the Black name being used here. That's really what makes Ninja Gaiden 2 Black feel like such a missed opportunity. Team Ninja took the time to rebuild the game from scratch so it could perfect this imperfect sequel, but then seemingly stopped halfway. While mods for the PC version could actually replicate the Xbox 360 original, everyone else is stuck with what amounts to a good-intentioned update that simply misses the mark. Now, I don't think this spells doom and gloom for Ninja Gaiden 4. During the reveal trailer, a number of key staff members for the project were announced. These include Yudai Abe, a former artist from Software, Yuji Nakao, the producer of Bayonetta 3, Tomoko Nishii, the cutscene animator for Nier Automata, Masakazu Hirayama, the director of Wolong Fallen Dynasty and a designer for Dead or Alive 5, and Fumihiko Yasuda, the director of Ninja Gaiden 3, Nioh 1 and 2, and a level designer on the original Ninja Gaiden 2. These people know their stuff, and while there are some stumbles in their gamographies, that even applies to legendary creators such as Shigeru Miyamoto. No one is perfect. What Ninja Gaiden 2 Black truly reveals is that game preservation is imperfect and should be taken more seriously. We at least live in a world where the Xbox 360 version of Ninja Gaiden 2 is still playable on modern consoles thanks to Microsoft's backward compatibility efforts, so I can't fault Ninja Gaiden 2 Black too much. Still, I'm ultimately let down by what I thought would be a return to form for the legendary Team Ninja. The studio has made some solid games over the last decade, and this should have been its definitive claim for action supremacy. Instead, what we have is indicative of how troubled AAA development currently is.